Video number 8, get ahead of it, right? You hear that term a lot. I got out ahead of it a little bit at impact. Let's start with getting ahead of it in its purest form. I've got the impact bag here. That's the ball, okay? The back of the bag is the ball. So when I get ahead of it, right, that means I'm kind of getting more on the target side of the ball or the bag here, the back of it, versus, say, behind it, okay? Now, I'm a fan in the full swing. We want to be behind it, right? We don't want to get out ahead of it. Now, there are shots where you are going to be more on top of it and out ahead of it. But in the golf swing, we want to try to get up a little behind it and then return a little bit behind it. Now, the first place you got to look when someone's getting ahead of it is at address. When we set up, sometimes you'll see the ball too far back in the stance, right? Well, you get the ball too far back, well, naturally you're going to get out ahead of it. So let's get the back of the bag just slightly forward of center, somewhere up in this logo here. And let's make sure that our spine's not leaning too far to the left. Left bend this way, you can see gets me ahead of it. We want just a little bit of right bend. So now I start behind it, okay? That's number one. Number two, let's make sure that we're getting turned behind it, okay? And that we're not getting some of this reverse, okay? If you have a reverse where your spine starts to really extend and lean left, then you need to go watch that fix, okay, in this lesson program. There's one on the reverse spine angle on how to fix that. And what I talk about is not only do you have to have a little right bend, but you have to turn and learn to kind of turn behind it. And it's okay if your head drifts just a little bit to the right, or to my right, just a little bit further behind it. That's okay. Okay? Now, I don't want an excessive amount where we sway, right? If you have a lower body sway, go watch that. And even in that sway video, I talk about an upper body sway, where the upper kind of gets too much movement that way. So the idea here is we set up behind, and then we turn behind, and we get a little more pressure moving into the right heel. But I feel like I've turned my right hip back out of the way. I feel like I've kind of lost a little flexion in my trail knee, so my left knee can come across and my left shoulder can come across. Okay, and that really gets me turned behind it. I like that lead shoulder behind it. Okay, thereabouts. So we're set up behind it. We're turning behind it. Now when I come down, I can stay behind it. And when I stay behind it, what I need to feel is my weight moving left, and then when I turn and hit it, I'm still a little bit in that right bend. Okay, so my weight's over here, but I'm still tilted just gently to the right. Okay, so I'm still behind it. One of the things that I like to do for players who tend to get out in front and out ahead of it is I like to get them to set up to something, tilt behind it slightly, take it halfway back, and then just go to impact and hold that and feel the weight left with your spine tilted to the right. Now go ahead and turn and open up the hips too. But I feel my weight over here, but my spine has a little right bend. Okay? Now if I was to hold this, I can feel my left glute really starting to work now. Okay, I don't want the weight over here and then my spine over here. Now I'm ahead of it. I want my weight over here with my spine to the right, and in fact, if I kept going from there, and I was to really swing through, I would add a little extension in the spine. Now, I talk about spine angle a lot in these videos. Once again, spine angle, this is left bend, this is right bend, okay? This is flexion, and this is extension. When we're trying to stay behind it, the key movements through impact is we need a little right bend, and we need a little extension. Okay, look where my head is. Okay? So again, set up, a little right bend. I can take it halfway or make my full turn behind it, but now my weight falls left. I turn and hit it, and I'm in right bend and extension. And that really keeps me behind it so I don't get out ahead of it. Now, I want to add another component to this that kind of leads into getting out ahead of it, right? In a similar context, but I see this a lot with different people, and it's called a launch, and I want to talk about it specifically here on the downswing. Let's say that we're set up well. We're making a nice turn to the top. We don't have any of this weird stuff going this way. We're loaded up. But then as I start down, I really launch off this trail leg. Okay, I really kind of push off this foot, and it just kind of lunges everything forward. So as I kind of launch, then I get out here, and I kind of got nothing left, and I tend to throw the angles a little bit at it because I've really launched off of that. If you're a launcher and you feel yourself really everything out ahead, maybe not just the upper, but just kind of everything out in front, and then you just have nothing in the tank when you hit it, this is for you, okay? Because this is another version that I see of getting out ahead of it. Usually when you see a launcher, you see a ton of trailed knee flex going back, almost like a shot putter. You kind of see them go here, and then they launch off, right, and they throw it. That's not golf. Right? We don't want to kind of get into this and then launch off. What we'd rather do is let this elongate up, get the right side of the pelvis higher, lose a little flexion, so then we can sit it down. Okay, so I'll do that again. We kind of go up, and then we can sit it down, rather than maybe down, adding flexion, and then push up. Okay, so we let this go up, and then we can sit it down. We can get a little bit of a squat, a little bit of a sit, split between the knees, rather than this push. I'm kind of a fan of players just taking this, putting it on the back of their shoulders, and then just kind of feeling a little squat, where they add flexion. They kind of sit into the ground, and they feel their knees split, right? And they feel their knees split with rotation. They feel that spacing in between the knees. It gets them into the ground rather than up off the ground so early. So you feel the trail knee elongate up, get a little feeling up, and then we feel these knees kind of split, little squat with rotation. And that really keeps us plugged into the ground and behind it so we can deliver that shaft forward. Right? So that's another fix to some of this launch, getting out ahead of it. Just a little, I don't know, different version of it to some degree. But go through this video, as I talked about, starting with ball position, where you're set up to it, how you're loaded up behind it, and then make sure when you come down that you can go to impact, feel weight left, feel some right bend, feel some extension, and make sure that you're doing that, right? That you're behind it. Then, if you feel like, you know what, I'm actually kind of more of what you just talked about at the end there, which is, you know, I'm pretty good here, I'm pretty good maybe here, but then I kind of just I just jump. I just push off and launch forward, and I get ahead of it. Well, then make sure that you're kind of losing some of that flexion, and then get some of this leg action. Man, you'll feel your weight fall left, you'll feel your knee split, you'll feel yourself really using the ground in a more rotational way, which allows you to carry these angles to impact. Once again, right bend, once again, extension, all the way to the finished position. So I like this video. I hope it helps you kind of stay more plugged into the ground and staying behind it.